You've seen them on temple walls, ancient scrolls, carved in stone older than history, the Eye of Horus, the Sri Yantra, the Ankh. And yet, you've probably been told they're just cultural artwork, decoration from civilizations long gone. But what if that's the lie? What if these symbols weren't meant to be seen with your physical eyes at all, but with your inner sight? Because here's what most people never realize. Symbols are not static. They are living frequencies, coded into shape. They bypass the rational mind and go straight to the unconscious. They don't ask for interpretation. They activate. And that's exactly what makes them dangerous. The third eye, what mystics called the seat of inner perception, is not activated by accident. It's unlocked through alignment, attention, and often exposure to energetic triggers. Ancient cultures knew this. That's why they weren't just spiritual, they were symbolic. Each line, angle, and proportion was crafted with mathematical precision to mirror truths beyond this dimension. When you look at the Eye of Horus, you're not just seeing a symbol, you're staring at a multidimensional blueprint designed to stimulate pineal resonance. When you focus on the Sri Yantra, you're aligning your perception with a map of reality, from the physical to the astral. These aren't metaphors, they're tools. And unlike modern tools, they don't just act on your body, they act on your field. They rewire your perception, they alter your frequency, they remind your soul of something it knew before you were born. But here's the part no one warns you about. Once a symbol awakens something in you, it doesn't go back to sleep. You may begin to dream differently. See patterns in numbers, nature, architecture. Feel pulled to places you've never been, languages you've never spoken. It's like a switch flips, and suddenly the entire world becomes a symbolic conversation. You begin to realize everything is encoded. This is the power of sacred symbols. They collapse separation. They speak to the eternal part of you. They open doors without asking permission. But here's why you must use them with caution. Because when your third eye activates through a symbol, it doesn't filter what you see. It shows you all of it. The beauty, the pain, the truth behind the illusion. And for some, that's too much. Because when you really see, you can't pretend anymore. And the life built on pretending starts to crack. The Eye of Horus. You've seen it everywhere. Tattoos, jewelry, posters, even pop culture. It's become aesthetic. But in ancient Kemet, what we now call Egypt, it was sacred technology. Let's get something straight. The Eye of Horus isn't just an eye. It's a map of perception, an anatomical and energetic diagram rolled into one. You may have heard that it mirrors the human brain, specifically the thalamus, pineal gland, corpus callosum, and that's true. But that's only the surface layer. What it really mirrors is the process of spiritual integration. In myth, Horus lost his eye in battle with Set, the force of chaos and fragmentation. Later, the eye was restored by Thoth, the god of wisdom. That restoration isn't just poetic, it's alchemical. The Eye of Horus represents your journey from inner blindness to awakened sight. The left side of the eye corresponds to thought, the right side to intuition, the spiral beneath to emotion, the eyebrow to higher awareness. Each part of the symbol is a function of perception, mathematically proportioned using the fractions of the ancient Hecate system. 1/2 enters 1/4, 1/8 into 16, 1/132, 1/64 equals 63/64. Never a full 1. Why? Because perception is always incomplete until the third eye is open. Staring at the Eye of Horus is like staring at your own unconscious. You start to see memories from other lives. You start to sense timelines collapsing. You feel as if you're being watched. And in truth, you are, but not by some external force, by your own higher awareness. This is why initiates of the ancient mystery schools were not allowed to use this symbol until they had undergone purification. Because activating the eye before you're ready doesn't just open sight, it opens truth. And truth, when you're still attached to illusion, feels like death. Here's what people have reported after meditating with the Eye of Horus. Sudden access to visual clairvoyance, spontaneous past life recall, intense downloads of symbolic language, uncontrolled crying, shaking, or ego breakdown. And this isn't just mysticism, it's resonance. The eye carries an energetic signature designed to bypass logic and pierce straight through your third eye's defenses. And once it gets in, it starts to decode everything. Because the eye isn't there to show you the world. It's there to show you yourself. It's not surveillance, it's a mirror. So if you choose to engage with it, do it consciously, not as art, not as fashion, but as what it truly is, a portal, one you don't walk through, one you let walk through you. Most symbols are simple, a line, a spiral, a dot within a circle. But the Sri Yantra, it's a labyrinth, 9 interlocking triangles, pointing upward and downward, forming a matrix of 43 smaller triangles, each representing layers of reality. At first glance, it overwhelms the mind. But that's the point. The Sri Yantra isn't meant to be understood. It's meant to undo you. Its very design is a test. Your logic wants to solve it. Your ego wants to understand it. But the only way to access its power is to surrender to it. Let's break it down. The upward triangles represent Shiva, pure consciousness. The downward triangles represent Shakti, dynamic energy. Where they intersect is where duality collapses, where masculine and feminine, form and formless, dissolve into one field. This is what the third eye is wired to perceive, not things, not names, but unified fields. Staring into the Sri Yantra for even a few minutes can trigger altered states. Some report vertigo, others feel their heartbeats sinking to the pattern. Some even feel like they're being pulled inward through the center point, the bindu. The bindu is no ordinary dot. It's the source point, where all multiplicity returns to the singularity. In mystic terms, it's the doorway back to the self, beyond identity. Now here's where it gets wild. When monks meditate on the Sri Yantra for long enough, they begin to have binaural visions. Not just visuals, but frequencies embedded in light. The triangles begin to move, shift, breathe. Because the symbol isn't static, it only looks that way from the outside. But to the awakened third eye, it's alive. And this is where things get uncomfortable. Because the more you stare into the Sri Yantra, the more you realize it's not just looking back at you, it's reading you. The symbol starts to reveal your patterns, your karmic imprints, your unresolved loops, your inner fragmentation. And suddenly, it's not geometry anymore. It's a mirror of your psyche. This is why yogis said you must approach the Sri Yantra with reverence. It's not a decoration. It's a hyperobject, a multidimensional interface. And once you activate it, you activate yourself. You begin to see through patterns in your life. You recognize symbols everywhere, in dreams, in architecture, in your own thoughts. Your third eye stops being passive. It becomes a navigator. And from that point forward, you no longer just observe life. You interpret it, like decoding a living mandala. Because that's what the Sri Yantra really is. Not just a symbol of the cosmos, but the lens through which the cosmos perceives you. Before we continue to the third and final symbol, take a breath. If this has awakened something in you, if you've ever looked at these symbols and felt something move inside, subscribe, turn on the bell, because what comes next will change how you see every line, every form, every moment. The Ankh is one of the most misunderstood symbols in human history. You've seen it. A loop atop a cross carved into stone, carried by gods, etched into amulets. It's been called the key of life, the breath of the sun, the crux ansata. But no one asks the deeper question, what exactly is it unlocking? Let's start with form. Unlike the Christian cross, which represents sacrifice, the Ankh curves. Its loop isn't ornamental, it's energetic. The vertical line equals spine. The horizontal equals arms, or the crossing of masculine and feminine energies. The oval loop equals consciousness, the womb of light, the 0-point field. But more than just anatomy, the Ankh represents a closed-loop circuit, energy rising from the base of the spine, kundalini, crossing the heart, merging polarities, then returning through the loop above the head, repeating in a perfect eternal cycle. This is why the Ankh is held, not worn. It was a tool, not a decoration. In initiation rituals, Egyptian priests would hold the Ankh before the forehead, directly over the third eye. It wasn't symbolic, it was functional. The Ankh, like a tuning fork, emits frequency, but it's not passive. It resonates with intention. When used in alignment, the Ankh activates not just the third eye, but the full light body system. People who've meditated with Ankh-shaped copper or visualized its loop spinning report sudden out-of-body awareness, vibrations up the spine, perception of inner golden light, spontaneous healing or emotional release. But here's the hidden truth. The Ankh doesn't give you energy. It shows you where you're leaking it. The moment you connect with it, you begin to feel the breaks in your energetic field, places where you've suppressed truth, ignored intuition, or absorbed toxic emotion. And once you see the leaks, your third eye begins doing what it was built to do: recalibrate reality from the inside out. This is why in so many depictions, gods like Isis or Osiris are seen offering the Ankh to mortals, not as a gift, but as a test. Can you hold your own frequency without collapsing? Can you circulate energy without dependency? Can you embody light without bypassing shadow? Because if the Eye of Horus awakens awareness and the Sri Yantra unlocks multi-dimensional geometry, then the Ankh grounds the awakening into action. It turns knowing into being, and in that state, you don't chase wisdom, you radiate it. But here's the warning: as always, the Ankh is not for decoration. It's a living archetype, and once you align with it, your life must match its frequency, or it will break apart anything that doesn't. Because true symbols don't flatter the ego, they dismantle it until only what's real remains. Most people think awakening is dramatic, that you'll see visions, hear voices, access cosmic data, and yes, sometimes that happens. But more often, your life begins to unravel, quietly, precisely, and without mercy. Once these symbols activate the third eye, you begin to notice not mystical miracles, but subtle fractures in your everyday world. You walk into a room and forget why you came. You look at someone you've known for years and they suddenly feel foreign. You can't tolerate the music you used to love. The conversations feel hollow. The job feels like a costume. Even your own thoughts start to sound like echoes. This isn't depression, this is deprogramming. Because when your third eye starts working, it doesn't just show you what's out there, it shows you what you've been tolerating. People you called friends might reveal control patterns. Places that once felt familiar now feel energetically off. Even foods begin to carry a signature: numbing, inflaming, uplifting. It's like reality gets unmuted, and you begin to realize you've been navigating a world of overlays: social programming, family imprinting, childhood trauma, religious conditioning, all layered over your raw perception. And now it's peeling off. You start seeing people's fields before their faces. You feel their intentions before their words. You dream about things that haven't happened yet, but soon do. You sense what's real, not from logic, but from vibration. But here's the part that rattles people. You begin to see yourself, the version that's been hiding under masks. And that part doesn't always speak in words. It moves through sensation, gut reactions, chills, internal no's and sudden yeses. It refuses to be ignored. This is when most people try to shut the third eye back down. They go back to distractions. They numb out. Because when the veil lifts, the truth is often inconvenient. But if you can sit with it, if you can let the unraveling unfold, something miraculous happens. The noise fades, the fog lifts, and a kind of clarity emerges that no book, no teacher, no ritual can give you. It's not about symbols anymore. It's about seeing through symbols. You no longer need proof. You simply know, not as information, but as frequency. And from that space, the real shift begins. You stop chasing awakening. You start embodying it. You've crossed a threshold now. The symbols did their work, subtle but irreversible, and what follows isn't always what you expect. Because true awakening doesn't just change how you see, it changes where you see from. Let's start with the body. You might feel strange pulses in the center of your forehead, random, rhythmic, sometimes buzzing. This isn't imagination, it's field activation. The pineal gland, bathed in cerebrospinal fluid, begins to vibrate in response to high-frequency stimuli, like symbols, sound, or even attention. You might wake up at odd hours, 2:22 a.m., 3:33 a.m., feeling like something called your name. You may crave solitude, silence, or specific frequencies of sound. You may suddenly become sensitive to light, noise, or even people's voices. Why? Because your energy body is retuning. You're no longer just reacting to stimuli. You're interpreting energetic code. Then there are the dreams. At first, they feel intense, prophetic, disorienting. You meet people you've never seen, yet know. You visit cities not from Earth, but filled with detail. You fly, you fall, you pass through portals, but they're not dreams. They're astral rehearsals. Your third eye has started bridging dimensions, and now you're receiving symbols in your sleep, glyphs, colors, entire languages, not random, not artistic, messages. Your subconscious is speaking back, and time, it starts to bend. Sometimes an hour feels like 10 minutes. Other times, 10 minutes feel like a lifetime. You'll notice synchronicities stacking, clocks, names, animals, conversations. Moments feel like déjà vu, not once, but in layers. That's because your awareness is no longer trapped in linear perception. You're starting to hover above time, not entirely, but enough to glimpse the pattern. And all of this started with a symbol, the eye, the yantra, the ankh. Each one a seed, each one a mirror, each one a permission slip for your inner vision to take command. And here's the secret most won't tell you. This process isn't something you can undo, but it's not something to fear either. Because as perception expands, so does responsibility. You begin to choose more carefully what you consume, who you let near, what you say yes to. Your boundaries sharpen, not from trauma, but from clarity. And eventually you realize you're not being activated by symbols. You're remembering that you are one. This is where most people feel stuck. The veil has lifted, the filters are gone. You see patterns, energies, intentions clearer than ever before. But the world, it hasn't changed with you. You still have to answer emails. You still walk among the unaware. You still hear people argue about things that to you now feel like shadows on a cave wall. So what now? This is the part of awakening no one glamorizes. It's not colorful, it's not euphoric, it's integration, and it's brutal, because you can't unknow what you know. You can't unsee what your third eye has shown you. You know who's draining your energy. You know which thoughts aren't yours. You know when your words aren't aligned with your frequency. And that's the gift and the challenge. Now you're called to live as a bridge, to speak truth without preaching, to stay grounded without sinking, to be awake in a world that still celebrates sleep. You'll feel moments of loneliness, a sense that no one around you gets it. You may look at old relationships and realize, painfully, they were built on versions of you that no longer exist. But that's not loss, it's alignment, because now new connections begin forming, not based on convenience, but resonance. You attract people not through effort, but frequency signature. You recognize souls before you know names, and slowly the world starts to reorganize around your new perception. Even time shifts. You stop planning everything. You start flowing more. Opportunities appear not by hustle, but by synchronicity. Why? Because the third eye doesn't just reveal energy, it generates it. You become a tuning fork, a broadcaster of vibration, and those who match find you, even in silence. But here's where true mastery begins. You learn to move between worlds, the seen and unseen, the external performance and the internal truth. You walk through crowds, aware of every field brushing against yours. You speak simply, but every word carries a hidden layer. You create not to impress, but to transmit codes only the awake will feel. This is the hidden gift of symbol activation, not just sight, but symbolic embodiment. You become the eye. You become the yantra, you become the ankh, each breath, each glance, each gesture saturated with meaning. And suddenly you realize, awakening wasn't the destination, it was the invitation to live not just consciously, but congruently. Let's step back. 3 symbols, 3 keys, 3 doorways, each one pulled from civilizations that have long turned to dust, yet their symbols remain. Why? Because energy doesn't decay, it echoes. The eye of Horus reminds you that your perception is never complete, that truth comes not from seeing more, but from seeing differently. The Sri Yantra teaches that reality isn't linear, but layered, that behind form is geometry, behind geometry is intention, and behind intention is you. And the ankh grounds it all, telling you that life isn't something you survive, it's something you circulate. So now what? You've seen what these symbols do. You've felt what they awaken. And if you've made it this far, you know, deep down, this isn't entertainment. It's initiation. Because here's the truth, no one markets. Awakening isn't always comfortable. It doesn't flatter your ego. It doesn't hand you a crown. It hands you a mirror. It shows you the parts of you that were sleeping, the energies you denied, the truths you buried. And then it asks, Are you ready to live like this is real? Because when your third eye is open, you no longer get to pretend. Every decision becomes a signal. Every word becomes a code. Every silence becomes sacred. And here's the secret most seekers avoid. You don't need more symbols. You need to become symbolic. That means embodying frequency, becoming intentional with your presence, choosing resonance over reaction, walking through the world like your soul is watching, because it is. So if you're here thinking this is just one more spiritual video, ask yourself, why do these symbols keep calling you? What part of you are they trying to wake up? And what if that part is the real you? Not the performer, not the thinker, not the seeker, but the one who remembers, the one who never forgot. Question for you. Which symbol has followed you through your life, even before you knew what it meant? And what do you think it's been trying to tell you all this time? Drop it in the comments. Let's decode the mystery together. And if this video sparked something in you, go watch the next one, because once the eye is open, the path only gets deeper.